Alright boys and girls, we have an interesting video for you today. We are going to be discussing everything you need to know about PvPing in lag. And unfortunately, this is something that we all deal with, even the guys that live in America. And we have Malcolm joining us for this video, another really knowledgeable ESO content creator. I'll have his channel linked in the description, so make sure you go give him a look. Alright. We'll get him to introduce himself for those that don't know who he is, and then let's get into it, boys and girls.
I'm Malcolm. I play on the PCEU server myself. My experience with lag is mostly from the prime time that PCEU has, which is really bad, and also from playing on the PCNA server because of that as well. It is because of the seriously bad performance on PCEU that I sometimes play on PCNA. But there too, I deal with a little bit of input lag that is always there simply because I am far away from the server there.
Okay, let's talk about a couple of programs that I think are must-haves for PvPing in ESO. First up is TPC Optimizer. I have full videos on these programs, so I'll have them linked in the description if you're curious about it. And also Exit Lag. This is a paid program, but you can try it out for 3 days. It is amazing. It lowers my ping by about 60, and more importantly, it stabilizes your ping and gives you a more reliable connection to the server, which in a lot of scenarios is more important than actually lowering the number itself. But I will have all of this linked in the description if you want to go check them out.
My first tip is about the champion point passive named Slippery. This is a great way to solve an issue with lag, namely the delayed break freeze. What the CP is going to do is that every once in a while it is going to break free for you automatically. The cooldown is long, but the effect is very noticeable because the server can sometimes break free faster than you can. And this sometimes is mainly when you are dealing with lag.
And just to add on to that great point about the CP, just to remember that it adds about 400 stam recovery too. So using this CP, you are going to notice that you don't need as much stam recovery. Alright, my first tip up is in relation to your build, and not necessarily gear sets or anything in particular, just basic rules to follow when you're making and creating your build. First up is extra health, just a little bit. You don't need to go crazy, but this is going to buy you more reaction time in lag. Second up is a little bit more recovery, around 200. This is to allow for heavy and light attacks missing because they do become very unreliable in lag. Having HOTS as well. Obviously, burst heals are great, you do need them, but having HOTS that can sit there and tick even when you're lagging is going to be life-saving. On top of that, you need some good natural tankiness, not relying on all your survivability coming from skills. So obviously partially this is going to come from HOTS and high health, and also Vamp. If you have decent amount of health, you're going to want Vamp. That's going to give you some mitigation down low. But also from just natural high resistances, so I always try and have around 30k, and things like minor protection and so on. You get the idea.
Continuing on what JTK said, in terms of passive mechanics like your skills and such, and the way you build your build to be more tanky, there is also the sets which are important here. Defensive wise, for example, you have Mara's Baum and Robes of the Hist. And the idea here is the same, to simply get a mechanic that keeps on ticking passively, that doesn't require you to do any active skill input, because those are delayed, those are less reliable. But those sets do remain reliable. And the same counts for damage as well. You have proc sets that deal a continuous amount of damage, either in bursts or over time, that will also always keep on working, even if you are lagging and you cannot rely on your own skills. For example, if you want to start pressuring an enemy, or if you want to quickly react by casting a finisher on an enemy, this might be delayed, but the set will always proc. And good examples of those damage sets are the Vateshran Inferno, Way of Fire, and Master Dual Wield. Especially if you combine these sets with the defensive sets I mentioned, you get a build that is still good, but also very passive, and that allows you to be a bit more laid back, to be a lot less punished when lag comes in, and if you make a mistake or if you mess up your sustain, you have a lot more time to react because of those sets.
Okay, next up, let's talk about some skills that are really important to try and avoid. We'll list them, then we'll talk. So D-Swing, DB, Streak, In-Cap, Soul Tether, Undo, Cloak, Dual World Attacks, I'll explain more in a second, and Misform. Also, pretty much anything with a cast time is going to be not the best in laggy situations. So first up, DB, we all know this is just an awful skill at the best of times, and when it's laggy, the hit potential drops to like 10%, it feels like sometimes. Streak is the same, it's just not that reliable and just feels sluggish and slow. Same with In-Cap and Soul Tether, it just feels not great. You can end up cancelling it a lot of the time in lag. And also, if these skills work for you, that's great. I'm just giving you some information for those that may not know. Undo, at the best of times, doesn't work in lag. It's freaking rolling a dice whether you'll get stuck in an undo loop or not. Cloak, pretty much every downside to Cloak is amplified in lag, and then dual world attacks. What I mean by this is light and heavy attacks. They seem to be extremely unreliable in lag compared to, say, two-hander or any other kind of light and heavy attack. I'm not the only one that thinks this, it's a bit weird. And then finally, Misform. The problem with this in lag isn't the skill itself, it's actually getting it to work. And what I mean by that is you'll hit Misform, it won't go off, you hit Misform again, and then the server's like, oh, you hit Misform twice, so clearly you don't want to be in Misform. And generally you're doing that in a defense situation, so popping back out of Misform is not ideal at all. Alright, let's move on.
One of the tips I apply the most myself when it starts lagging is playing alternative specs. I log out of whatever regular roaming PvP spec I'm playing, for example a solo sorcerer build, and I switch to something that is more of a gimmick and relies less on gameplay, and that is more of a fun thing, a small thing on the side to do. A quick example of this is ganking specs. It's something that works fine still when some delay is around, although the combos there will eventually get messed up too when lag progresses to the middle of prime time. The mess you get then will delay your gank too by multiple seconds and it becomes hard to combo it. But still, it is worth a try in medium amounts of lag because it will simply have a little bit of delay on your entire burst, but it won't mess it up. It will still hit at the same time and your enemy might actually have some delay himself breaking free, and that might be beneficial. Another thing that might be beneficial for ganking in lag is that a delay like that might sometimes even change the order in which skills hit. I've seen gameplay from a player where he deliberately used the delay because he was playing on a region far away from the server to hit an in-cap before an Infernal Light attack hits, and thus ensuring that the in-cap would have a guaranteed crit since it hit first from stealth. That's not something you can do in perfect performance. Other niche setups like this are bomb blades and tanks, also two things I enjoy playing myself when it lags a little bit. It's a good thing that bomb blade is often still very well playable in even the middle of prime time though, because that is also when the biggest zergs are around. If you're playing for example a melee bomb blade, your proxy death might explode half a second or a second later, but you can still time that well with Soul Tether.
Okay, I think personally these two next tips that I'm going to give you are the most important. So if you take anything out of this video, take this. And the first tip is slow down. And what I mean by that is your actual rotation speed and how quick you're going through your different skills and things like that. And this is generally the biggest problem with why we've experienced that feeling of lag. Because you get used to playing at, say, 100 ping, and the timing and everything that goes with that. So when your ping goes up to 150, the whole game feels different and your skills stop working. And that's generally because your rotation speed is too fast to match the current state of the game. So if you notice these skills aren't working and it's lagging really bad, just try and slow down a little bit. If you can get to the point where you can do this on the fly, your PvP experience and how well you do is gonna go up a lot. Now, the second bonus tip I will give you is get used to double tapping CC break. I don't think most of us want to admit that how simple this problem is, but I've been trying it over the last few weeks and it was a game changer to the point where I'm so annoyed that I never thought about doing this before. So basically just get used to hitting it once and hitting it again. And they don't need to be like 1, 2, but just double tapping reasonably quickly. This hasn't let me down. I think one time out of the last 2 weeks I've played, I have CC broke every single time. Now, obviously this doesn't help the actual lag, how slow it feels like you CC break, but what it does is it cuts down that time between you hitting CC break, going, oh crap, I didn't CC break, and then hitting CC break again. And this can be as much as a second or 2 seconds, and that is like game changing when you're fighting outnumbered or just fighting in lag in general.
And then for my last tip, this is directed at people who regularly deal with primetime lag, and that is to just log off.
Alright, forget what I said about my last 2 tips. That's definitely the best tip there from Malcolm about lag. Just remember, it's a game, guys. You're meant to be having fun. If you're not having fun, just log off and go do something else. Or, you know, do PvE or change your build. Just don't do the same old, same old. This is something that I'm trying to take on board myself because I get caught in this trap. This has been a lot of fun and hopefully it's helped a lot of guys. Once again, a massive shout out to Malcolm. Make sure you guys go check him out. Very knowledgeable ESO player. And yeah, as always, boys and girls, I love yous and I'll catch yous in the next one. Peace.